The first thing I understood was not that something was wrong, but that I had stopped expecting it to be right. The thought arrived fully formed. It did not scare me. It did not even surprise me. It felt like noticing a sound that had been missing for a long time. The hum of a refrigerator after it shuts off. The city after a storm. I remember standing still and waiting for a reaction that never came. That was when the question appeared. Not loudly, not urgently, just resting there. How does a person arrive at a place where relief comes from not hoping anymore? I did not feel broken. I felt efficient, calm, clear, as if something unnecessary had finally been set down. For a moment, I tried to place myself back into the version of life I assumed I was still living. I looked around my room. The same walls, the same chair by the window, the same light falling across the floor in the late afternoon. Nothing had changed in a way that could be named. That made it harder to argue with the realization. If everything looked the same, then the difference had to be inside me. I told myself that everyone reaches a point where expectations soften, that it was maturity, that it was adaptation. I used words like balance and acceptance. I said them quietly in my head as if they could form a net. They did not. They slid past the thought without touching it. I went back to what I was doing. I answered messages. I made dinner. I rinsed the plate before setting it in the rack. My hands moved correctly. My voice sounded normal when I spoke. I even laughed once at something that deserved it. The laugh came out clean. It just did not go anywhere afterward. That night I slept without trouble. No dreams that I remember. No weight on my chest. When I woke up, the feeling was still there. Not sharper, not duller, just present. Like a piece of furniture I had walked around for years without noticing. The days that followed did not announce themselves. They blended. I kept my schedule. I returned calls. I showed up when expected. If anyone had been watching closely, they might have noticed small delays. A pause before agreeing. A longer silence before answering a simple question. But people rarely watch that closely. And I had learned long ago how to give them what they needed before they had to ask. I began to notice details that felt slightly wrong. Not alarming, just misaligned. The way a conversation would end one sentence earlier than it used to. The way I stopped adding clarifications. The way I let misunderstandings stand if they did not cost me anything immediately. It was not laziness. It was not exhaustion. It felt more like conservation. There were moments when instinct stirred. A faint pressure behind the ribs. A suggestion that something should be addressed. I recognized the sensation. I had followed it many times before. It used to lead me into difficult conversations, into apologies, into risks that felt necessary. Now I acknowledged it the way one acknowledges a distant siren. I noted its existence. Then I waited for it to pass. I told myself I was choosing my battles, that not every impulse deserves action. That restraint is a form of wisdom. These explanations felt reasonable. They fit well enough to avoid scrutiny. I did not lie to anyone else. I did not need to. I only needed to keep my own reasoning smooth. There was no single moment where I decided to stop pushing back. That is important. If there had been, I might have questioned it, might have examined it from different angles. Instead, it happened gradually. Permission was granted in increments so small they felt like rest. I remember standing in line at a store and realizing I no longer cared if the clerk was kind. I did not resent them. I did not judge them. I simply did not require anything beyond the transaction. The thought came with a strange sense of freedom. I did not have to be seen. I did not have to be met. I could pass through unnoticed and intact. At first this seemed like relief, less friction, fewer disappointments. The world became easier to navigate when I stopped asking it to respond to me in specific ways. I told myself that this was the benefit of experience, that I had learned not to lean too hard on outcomes. But underneath that reasoning, something else was happening. I was narrowing, not in a dramatic way, more like a hallway being slowly enclosed. Each choice became simpler. Not because I understood more, but because I expected less. There were conversations I could have had. I saw the openings clearly. A pause where I could have said something honest. A question I could have asked that would have changed the direction of the exchange. I felt the shape of those possibilities. Then I let them close. It did not feel like avoidance. It felt like efficiency. I started to measure situations by how much they asked of me. Not in effort, in exposure. Anything that required me to assert a need or acknowledge a want began to feel unnecessary. I learned how to redirect, how to agree without committing, how to be present without offering access. People responded well to this, or at least they did not push back. I became easy to deal with, reliable, calm. I listened. I nodded. I made space. I was thanked for my understanding. No one asked what it cost. There were nights when I sat alone and felt a pressure that did not have a name. It was not sadness. It was not regret. It was closer to fullness, like a room with no exits. I would sit with it for a while. Then I would distract myself. A book, a screen, sleep. I noticed that I no longer imagined alternate versions of my life. That had once been a quiet habit, wondering what I might do next, where things could lead. Those thoughts had faded. In their place was a steady sense of continuation. Tomorrow would resemble today, and that was acceptable. The first time I recognized fear, it was not fear of loss. It was fear of interruption. The idea that something might demand a response I could not give, that it might force me to reopen a door I had carefully allowed to close. I became skilled at appearing open while remaining untouched. I shared facts. I avoided conclusions. I spoke about events without describing their impact. It was not intentional at first. It became natural through repetition. I told myself that everyone edits, that privacy is healthy, that not everything needs to be processed aloud. These statements were true enough to be convincing. They allowed me to continue without friction. The mounting pressure did not announce itself as urgency. It showed up as weight, a subtle resistance to anything new. I declined invitations without explanation. I delayed decisions until they resolved themselves. I watched opportunities pass and felt nothing more than mild curiosity. There was a moment I remember clearly. I was walking home in the evening. The street was familiar. The air was cool. I felt a sudden awareness of my own body moving through space, the rhythm of my steps, the sound of my breath. For a brief second, I felt fully present. Then the thought came, this is enough. And something inside me went quiet. I did not feel sadness afterward. I felt settled, as if an argument had ended. The part of me that used to question had accepted an answer it could not articulate. From that point on, awareness did not bring relief. It simply accompanied me. I knew what I was doing. I knew what I was not doing. I did not confuse myself about it. I also did not intervene. I understood that resistance requires energy. That energy comes from belief, and belief requires the possibility of change. I had removed that possibility without ever stating it outright. There were still moments of discomfort. They came when I brushed against old versions of myself. A memory, a phrase I once cared about, a look in someone else's eyes that suggested expectation. In those moments, I felt a tightening, not guilt, not shame, more like irritation, as if someone had tapped on a wall I no longer used. I became very good at smoothing those moments over. A smile, a deflection, a change of subject. The skill sharpened with use. Each successful avoidance reinforced the next. I do not want to suggest that I was unhappy. That would be inaccurate. I was stable, consistent. My days were predictable in a way that felt earned. I had removed volatility. I had also removed something else. But by then, I no longer had the language to name it. The internal fracture did not feel like breaking. It felt like a clean separation. Two parts of me agreed to stop speaking. The part that noticed and the part that acted reached a quiet understanding. One would observe, the other would continue. I still noticed beauty, a certain quality of light, the sound of rain against glass. These things registered. They just did not reach inward. They stayed on the surface. That felt appropriate, like appreciating a painting without needing to own it. I was aware that something fundamental had shifted. I could trace its outline. I could describe its effects. What I could not do was feel any urgency to reverse it. That is the part that unsettles me now, even as I describe it calmly. I had given myself permission without ever asking. That is the truth of it. Permission to stop pushing. Permission to stop wanting. Permission to remain where I was indefinitely. There is no climax to this story. No event that forced a reckoning. Life continued to offer its small demands. I met them efficiently. It offered its small pleasures. I accepted them without attachment. Sometimes I wonder what would happen if something truly disruptive occurred, if I would feel anything at all. The thought does not frighten me. It simply passes through, unanswered. I do not regret who I have become. Regret implies an alternative that matters. I acknowledge the narrowing. I recognize the quiet. I understand the trade that was made. This is not a warning. It is not a confession in the sense of seeking absolution. It is simply a record, a description of a shift so subtle it escaped notice until it was complete. If you are listening closely, you may be tempted to look for the moment where it could have gone differently. I cannot help you with that. I do not know where it was. I only know that by the time I noticed the change, I no longer expected it to be right, and that expectation never returned. Thank you for watching. Like the video and subscribe if you want to hear more stories like this.